What's the most effed up you've walked into? Friend got faced at a party. Was put to bed to sleep it off. Lots of us stayed there as to not drive drunk. Well, when I got up to use the bathroom, I found aforementioned passed out dude sitting on the toilet with the lid down. He had his dick in his hand and was sitting in a puddle of sh. At some point in the night he got up to take a sh and decided to jerk off. He was forever known as Poop and Jerk from that point on. Didn't walk into it so much as it walked into me. On a night out in another town waiting for a taxi home. Random drunk lass walks around the corner from the strip to where the taxi rank is. Lifts her dress up. Bends over and just sprays diarrhea up the wall in front of about 20 people. Pulls her dress down and walks right into another club. The range was impressive. If nothing else. Woke up a Sunday morning. Felt like being a good kid and to make my parents some coffee and toast. I get downstairs and get to making a little breakfast tray and go into their room. To find them going at it. I made eye contact with my dad for a solid 5 seconds before setting down the tray and walking out. I don't make breakfast anymore. In my junior year of college, my best friend and I were helping pack up his girlfriend's room at the end of the semester when I heard some weird noise coming from the bathroom. It kind of sounded like someone having sex, so I thought it would be hilarious to kick the door open and surprise them. It turned out the cleaning woman was on the floor having a seizure. I was hanging out with this girl I was trying to date. While there, her mom was served divorce papers. Friend and I went out to get pizza and took his little sister too. Gone maybe 20 minutes. Got back and his little sister runs inside before us. He walks after her and I follow. As I get in, I see both of them frozen in place staring at something. As I round the corner, I see their dad strangling their mom. Both crumpled on the stairs leading up. It was eerily effing quiet. Like she was sitting there dying without a sound. I was in a state of shock, but I wasn't paralyzed by it, so I walked over and calmly grabbed his wrists and pulled his hands from her neck. Still no sounds at all. Super quiet. She started gasping then and the sound snapped everyone out of it. That's when all hell broke loose with everyone screaming and freaking out. My own mom asked why I didn't beat the hell out of him, and I had to explain to her that I was in a sort of calm daze. I was watching someone trying to kill someone else and I just couldn't process it. As an adult now, I would have absolutely beat him to a greasy pulp, but I was like 16 then. She survived with a badly bruised neck and thankfully did everything right. Restraining order. Divorce. Moved away. Rah at a major university in Canada. Girl is locked out of her room and asks for one of us to get into her room. Not out of the norm in our building. She was in a double room and could not get a hold of her roommate. I go up with another knock twice without any noise. Open the door to her roommate and 3 guys in a 4-way. She takes the cock out of her mouth and says, "I was a little busy to answer." I just shut the door and found an empty room with bedding for the shocked student who was a devout Catholic, as she told me many a time as we walked to the other room. Back in college, I had a few friends in a sorority, and we'd go around to parties on the weekends. Walked into some frat party. And while we're still in the entryway of the house, a girl with her pants around her knees is trying to run down the stairs, but trips and falls down half of them. We go over to see if she's okay, and 3 guys appear at the top of the stairs saying she's with us and she's okay. She's incoherent. Doesn't know where she is. Can't give me her name. The girls and I immediately decide to get her home. We get her pants back on. And I carry her out the door while we deal with the protests of the guys behind her. When in the car, she can't tell us where she lives. Doesn't have her phone. And can't give us any phone numbers. She's totally out of it. Thankfully she had her wallet and ID. So we found her apartment that way. Dropped her off. And left her with her roommate. Was delivering pizza. Getting off an elevator. As the door opened, a topless woman was standing there squeaking a rubber ducky between her tits. Her boyfriend stood in their apartment door busting up. They tipped $20. Also walked in on one of my ex-roommates rubbing one out, and I didn't realize what was going on until I saw his hog. I set this box controller down I was returning and walked out. We were friends for years and never spoke of it. Was backpacking through Europe with 3 buddies years ago. And this happened in Amsterdam. One of our friends had gotten sick during the trip and had missed a lot of our Prague stint and all of our Berlin stint, roughly 10 days. In Amsterdam he finally was feeling better and decided to join us on one of those touristy pub crawls. On the very first night out since illness. Long story short, he gets absolutely hammered and is all over the place. When we move on to a different bar with the group, we look around and can't find him anymore. 10 PM. We assume he's either gone home or is gonna meet up with us. But we were drunk too and just assumed the best. Welp. Now it's 4 AM and we're walking home to our hostel without any sign of him. We're hoping he's home in the hostel sleeping. Well, we get back and open the door and sure enough there he was in the fetal position in his boxes on the floor of the hostel hotel room. What was quickly a sigh of relief to find him turned into horror and disgust. As we notice he, along with the entire room, is covered in like full-blown brown town everywhere, on the beds, on the walls, all over him, his back, hands. Think of that scene in Dumb and Dumberer with Bob Saget in the bathroom. There's shin puke smeared on just about every bed. And there was shin vomit all over the bathroom. The kicker, too, was that his clothes had been neatly folded at the end of his bed. He has no recollection of what happened that night. I can still smell and see that room 10 years later. As a paramedic I walked in on 4 people overdosed in a small apartment. There was a large naked woman laying on a smaller naked man, both in cardiac arrest with severe central cyanosis. There was a woman on the couch actively going into respiratory arrest and a man propped against the chair in just as bad of shape. Very long story short, the woman on the couch and the man against the chair survived. The others were not so lucky. Best we could figure they all shot up a tainted batch of heroin. The 2 people started having sex on the floor when they went into respiratory arrest followed by cardiac arrest. The man in the chair had a cell phone near him and was the one that called 911. If he wouldn't have, they all would have probably died. That was the worst OD I have walked in on. There are many. A number of years back while working as a nurse on night shift, I walked into a room as the patient's sister was getting out of bed. Fully nude. The patient was still in bed. Fully nude. I used to work in a prison. It's a British female prison and I was a male officer. At lockup time I was getting everyone back to their cells. Mainly by ineffectively shouting at the women. But slowly they were getting banged up for the night. I walked in this one cell to check and on the floor were 2 women inserting a 2L full Coke bottle into the other. Fat end first. The inserters were about 25 and the receiver 50. I just noped out of there. Came back 5 minutes later and everyone was back in their own cell with just the receiver sat watching TV in her own cell. Not a word was said by me or them. Locked everyone away and never told anyone except my wife when I got home. And she was like, yeah well you can fit a baby out that way, a Coke bottle isn't that much wider. At university I walked in on my housemate having cocaine blown up his ass with a bicycle pump by his girlfriend. They're married now so there's someone out there for everyone. Best friend told me he was having a adult party and we should come by. I knew my friend and his wife dabbled in swinging but didn't think too much of it. My GF and I bought a bottle of booze and headed over. We walked in their house and my eyes are assaulted with the wackiest shit I have ever seen. My friend's wife is riding some dude on their coach and turns around and says, oh hey guys, come on in. She never even flinched to stop effing this dude while talking to us. So we walk in and my buddy comes barreling down the stairs buckling his pants with some half-naked girl following him. I say my hellos and make my way to the kitchen. When I walk into the kitchen there is a dude in all fishnet getting a blowjob by some very large obese lady. It was something straight out of a horror kink movie. My girl and I sipped on booze and chatted with people coming in and out of the kitchen for the next hour then took off. The event was effing bananas. Edit, let me clarify some things. We walked in on the party at 9 o'clock. It wasn't like we rolled in at 1 AM or something. What we were expecting was people hanging out drinking, then as the night went on things would lead up to what we saw. I have no moral objection to what was going on but just not what I was expecting first thing. I'm a caregiver. My last job was taking care of DD, developmentally disabled, adults. I took care of middle-aged woman who had syndrome known as Prader-Willis, a genetic disability that makes them always hungry. Food is always on their mind and they will go to great lengths to get something to eat. The client did have an intellectual disability, but their IQ was close to average and they led a fulfilling life. The only care they required was supervision. The food had to be locked up. We couldn't throw food away, it had to be flushed down the toilet or taken to locked garbage can. Another precaution whenever we were out in public, which was daily, we were to check the bathroom garbage cans for food. So we're out in the community and client needs to use the bathroom. So I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. So I enter the bathroom to find out what's going on. To find my client with their hands and face covered in their own feces. They were eating their feces. I did my best to compose myself and instruct them to finish up and wash their hands mouth with lots of soapy water.